And today I'm joined with my new friend, Rachel Joy. I am really excited for you guys to get to hear this interview and find out how we got connected. But Rachel Joy has this incredible ministry called Sparrow Co. and also a venue called Sparrow on Maine. And let me give you a little just exciting news and information that this is where we're hosting Refresh 24 come February. If you are interested in joining us, we would love to have you. You can find us if you're watching on the video, you can see it below. If not, refreshwomen.org. Come find out about this event we'll be hosting at Rachel's venue, Sparrow on Maine. So join me as we dive into this incredible interview, and we get to hear how Rachel went from dreaming up this incredible space to actually doing it. So welcome, Rachel Joy, to the Dreamers To Doers podcast. I am beyond excited to get to interview you. This is such a privilege, such an honor. And let me just start with fun fact, because our idea is to keep this light and fun and all of those things that I love to do. So let me just share how we got to know each other, which we don't know each other well, but I think that story is so crazy.
I feel like I know you. I've known you for years.
Well, this is what's so wild. I kind of maybe feel like I've known you for years now because I've stalked you long enough. But I'm sitting in the car at soccer practice looking for a new venue for Refresh because we just hosted Refresh 23 at a hotel. It was great, but it was like, hi, we need something new. We need something better. We're moving on, right? So I'm in my car at soccer practice. It's late and I am scrolling a wedding website, come across the most beautiful white venue with these black chandeliers. I'm like, this is a vibe. This is a vibe. Why is every other wedding venue a little, I'm sorry, no offense. There's lots of beautiful ones, but there's also some real, I don't know what they were thinking, you know? So I see this one.
Yeah.
Pull it up. I'm like, wow, this is beautiful. So I look up your website, and then at the bottom, I see this little line that says Sparrow and Co. Or it's like, powered by Sparrow and Co. or something. I'm like, what is this? Tell me more. Deep dive and find Rachel Joy, the most amazing woman behind this venue and ministry. Had no idea. And just to know that our hearts were so similar for women, the mom next to me thinks I'm crazy because I just felt like I needed to tell someone this was so huge. And I felt like I met a soul sister through a wedding venue website, and I didn't even know you yet. Stalked you hardcore, and I've just the one time we've even gotten to be together, but I've just fallen in love with who you are and what you represent and just your passion and your heart for women in the community. So I want you to just share just a little bit about overall the ministry and kind of what you're doing there at Sparrow.
Yeah. So our nonprofit is called Sparrow Collective. We are based in Louisville, Texas. Although we serve local and global communities, we are rooted in Louisville. And we do identity, gifting, and purpose work for women, and we do it for all women. We do it for the women who are at risk in our community, who are referred to us by the school district and other nonprofits. And then we do it for the woman the stay-at-home mom that wants to know what's next, or maybe the seasoned older person that wants to step out in their gifting, but just doesn't know how and doesn't know what God has for them next. And so we love the transition seasons. We love the hard seasons because we do a lot of story work around here, and who you are and who God has made you to be, and what he has made you to do. And so over at Sparrow Collective on that side, we do restorative work for women. We have a program called Sparrow Restore, which our event venue directly impacts. So that's how we get funding for our programs over at Sparrow Restore. And then we also have a retail store called Sparrow and Co. Sparrow
So
and Co.
cute.
is
So cute.
it's a beautiful home goods store that we say impact your home, empower communities. So we have over 22 local and global partners that we get products from that are empowering women worldwide. And so when you make a purchase in our store, you are literally impacting women all over the world. And so 100% of the net proceeds from both Sparrow on Maine, which is our event center, and Sparrow and Co. Go back into our Sparrow Collective for our programs for women. So it is a 3 entity model that works together to make the ultimate impact.
I love that. Now you can see why I was like having a full on freak out when I just randomly came across you, and just incredible. And I love how your passion for the transition. And I think that that's the biggest thing with even where we're going with this podcast. And I'm excited to dive into a little bit more of kind of behind the curtain type questions because, hearing
Yeah.
all that, it's like, this is amazing. She's awesome. How in the world I could never like that, I think that's the first thought, right? Um, but I think our heart for this is to get a little look behind the curtain. And
Mm.
if you are in that place right now of this type of transition where you're saying, I don't know, I think I've got these things in my heart, I've got these ideas, but I just have no idea how I could ever get
Mm.
there. Like that seems too far. My hope is that this conversation would inspire you listening to be able to step out and say yes. So take me back to your yes and I kind of want to hone in. You've got a 3-part um, ministry organization, but I really want to zero in on the actual venue because I know that this was a really big step for you, and a lot of other things kind of fall under that. So take me
Mhm.
back to that moment you said yes, and maybe found this venue and decided, okay, was it always in your heart to have a physical space?
Yeah. So we did a conference for years, and it was a sweet time. The Lord really blessed that time. And we grew, but there was just this groaning in my heart, this ache in my heart to get on the ground day in and day out and impact my local community. The conference we were running was down in Dallas, and I live north of Dallas. And so there were needs right here that we needed to meet in our community and the women here, right now, in our daily lives. And so I did want to have a brick and mortar location. That was always something that I wanted to do, but it was like you said, is it possible? How do I get funding? Um, how does that even come about? My background is in education. It's actually not in entrepreneurship, although I would say that the Lord has probably honed that gifting of mine over the years because I've worn a lot of hats. But anyway, so uh, the craziest story is when I said yes and thought, okay, Lord, you've given me this vision for this event center and this 3-part model with the store and the nonprofit. And He gave me the idea of the event center directly impacting and funding these other ministry initiatives. And so I'm prayer walking. This sounds wild. I'm prayer walking in Old Town Louisville. And Old Town Louisville has had several iterations. It's super cute. But there's a buzz about Old Town right now because a lot is being built around Old Town, a lot of dwellings, a lot of apartments. But it's kind of in transition itself. Old Town is. And so I love the beauty of taking something that looks rough and looks old and worn out and is restored to something new and beautiful. I think that's what Jesus does with us. I think we have seasons of difficulty and hardship, and where we feel benched or wrung out, or maybe we've had some sort of failure in our lives. And I think the Lord so graciously lifts our head up and says, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. You are not the sum total of your failures. You are not the sum total of your story. You are not the sum total of what you think this kind of season that you're in, that he can move and push through that season, and provide something beautiful. He makes beauty from ashes, and we know that. So I'm walking in Old Town Louisville, and I'm praying, Lord, I know I sound crazy. I I we want this space down here. How on earth are you going to provide this? You are a provider. And I'm just talking with him. I'm like, you are a provider. You are a sustainer. You do these things. You've given me this vision. Okay, Lord, you're going to have to make it happen. Because me in and of myself, I can't do this. I don't have all the giftings to do this. I don't have the funding to do this. I can't do it. You are going to have to show up. You are going to have to perform a miracle, a modern day miracle right here and right now. And I believe our God moves. He is a provider. And so anyway, I'm walking, I see this building. It was built in 1920. I love design. So it has an Art Deco feel to it. And like the lines of the building are Art Deco. And so I see it, it's brown, it's ugly, but I think we can make it beautiful. I think we can restore it. So it was actually the original Huffines dealership here in Louisville. It was the first dealership in Denton County. And so they used to sell cars out of it in the 30s, and then it became a mechanic shop. But engraved on the building is Huffines, and so we left that there when we restored the building, just a nod to the past, a nod to our story of the story of this building, the story of this community, and now our stories are involved in this building. And what I love about it is Mr. Huffines, way back in the 20s, when the Great Depression hit, he used to loan out cars to farmers in the area so that they could bring their produce back in. So even he had this mindset of community, and how can we impact community and love people with the gifts we've been given by God? How can we do that? And so I told his grandson, I said, we're carrying it on. We're carrying on the legacy here in this building. We want to make an impact in our community. So long story short, we got the building. It was not for sale at the time. I again called a real estate agent and I said, I know I sound crazy, but I think this is the building. And he said, Rachel, it's not for sale. And I said, I know, just ask. And so through a series of events, we were able to get the building. Through another incredible meeting, we got the funding renovate the building and restore it, and then move into it. And so we are so grateful. We've been in the building for about 1 year now.
That's wild. Wild, amazing, crazy story. Okay, so take me into Rachel Joy's mind as you're kind of walking this out. Obviously, the Lord had put this in your heart. You're praying, like this is part of this process of you're seeking him, and you just have the faith to know that this is what he's spoken. So he's going to provide.
Mhm.
What is going through your mind when, okay, you see the space and you're like, this is it, let's go for it. But kind of in between it actually happening and you walking into this, kind of that in between, the transition phase of like it going from this is where I think we're supposed to be, and actually getting to where you are now. What has that been like? What are some of the things that have wanted to hold you back, or that maybe has given you courage to keep going forward?
So in the scriptures, there's two types of fear. I would say fear as in I'm scared, and then fear as in reverence for the Lord, and honor of what he has said and what he wants us to walk in. And so I was probably waffling between the two. I want to honor you, Lord. I want to honor you, but I want to fear you more than I fear man, more than I fear what could happen in these circumstances. But then I'm human,
Yeah. Yeah.
so scared, worried, anxiety. Is this going to work out? Will we be able to renovate an entire 9,000 square foot building and start an event venue? Do I don't have a background in running an event venue, so I knew I was going to have to hire some teammates to help me. Which, by the way, I cannot speak enough about my team here. They are absolutely incredible. I know that this vision sounds like a lot. It sounds like a lot, that what all God has done, it has not happened without the most incredible team of women using their gifts, um, running in their lanes
Yeah.
to make this whole thing happen. So anyway, yeah, I think I was waffling between,
Mhm.
if I'm just real blunt with you, fear, as in worry, anxiety, stress. Could this happen? Did I have all the gifts? And then, the enemy loves a playground like that. And
Yeah.
so he would love nothing more than to hold me back. And so it was it was a battle, praying and asking God to remove
Hmm.
all my fear, all my anxiety, so that I could run, so that I could do what He had asked me to do and honor Him and fear Him more
Wow.
than I feared failure, feel more than I feared man. Yeah. So
So much
it's
in
a
all of
battle for
that,
sure.
and I just feel like it's so beautiful it's, like, so encouraging for me too to just get to hear, like, this process of, when something is from the Lord, it doesn't take away from the difficulty that's you're gonna, like, face
Mhm.
and you're gonna come up against, but the fact that you are willing to say, I'm human, but I'm going to go back to the Lord for the strength to actually walk this out. And not only that, I don't know how to do all of this. So I am going to find the gifts in the people around me and empower those
Mhm.
people. And I think that's obviously a natural gift in who you are. I think that you can see that in people so easily. But I think that's a really key part of all of this is not feeling like you've gotta go at it alone and being okay with
Mhm.
not being the expert on an event venue or events, but knowing I can empower some people around me and maybe some
Yeah,
dreams in their heart is going to come to
that's right.
fruition because I'm giving them a space to operate. I think that's been something that's hard for me in running an organization is I obviously have an entrepreneurial mindset. I'm a starter. By nature, that's kind of how God's gifted me. And not everyone's like that. And I think I tend to think from the beginning, I thought everyone is starting their own thing. Everybody wants to do their own thing. But that's not the case. There's people that are called to come alongside, to help
Mhm.
build, to be helpers, to be a part of vision. Um, that's beyond them, but maybe they weren't the one that founded it from the beginning. And that's okay. And that they're going to fulfill what God's called them to do through that. And so I love that you shared that um, about people. Okay. So, right now, what is your current challenge as you're a year in, which is kind of fun that
Mhm.
this is a little bit more fresh. You're a year into the actual venue. What's your
Mhm.
greatest challenge? Like, what are you overcoming right now I mean, we kind of talked about your first steps, but where are you now with what you've got to work at overcoming?
We have here on staff now, we've grown quite a bit. Our team has grown. So we have about 20 people that work here at Sparrow. Um, and that's all three entities. But you have to understand that we started out with four. And the four was this beautiful team of day in, day out in the trenches with each other, working through hard things. How are we going to organize the event center? How are we going to partner with people all over the world for these products? How are we content? I mean, you name it. There were a million things coming at us, but we were in it together and we were linked. We had linked arms and we're running in our lanes, cheering each other on. And so I would say the challenge that we are facing now is we are bigger. And that is, and people are like, well, that's a good thing. And it is a good thing. It is a good thing. But I am a highly relational leader. And I know that about myself. I didn't actually used to know that about myself because, per your point, I used to think everybody's like this.
Yeah.
Everybody uh, really wants to know details about each person, or can sense emotions on people, or can walk in a room and know exactly how to engage the people on the fringes. I thought everybody does that. Not everybody does that. And so I have had this battle in my heart of, we're growing, and I can't know everybody to the degree that I want to, or I can't know everything going on in the organization. I have an idea of what's going on, and it does start in our exec room. But when it is carried out, I don't have my eyes on everything that's being carried out, and that's hard for me. And it might seem like I've wrestled with the Lord. I'm like, am I controlling? Am I being controlling? Am I wanting to micromanage? Am I wanting to just know everything that's going on? Is that out of fear? So there we go again. Typically, if I am frustrated that I don't know all the little details, there's control that comes in, fear comes in again. And I'm like, no, I have to, as I empower other people to carry this out, I have to have faith in the Lord, not in those people. Yes, I want to trust those people, but I have to have faith in the Lord that He is guiding them and leading them, and that things will come to my attention as we do due diligence and structure things in a way that I am checking in. But that's just a real tactical, practical example that as your organization grows, you can't possibly know every little thing, and you can't do it all.
Yeah.
You can't. I can't possibly be in the store, be working events, and providing content and teaching over at Sparrow Collective. I can't do it all. And I wasn't designed to do it all. So it's empowering, and then honestly handing all of this, all these people, all this ministry, the event, the space, all of it back to the Lord and going, Lord, I want to honor you. Help us honor you. Help us honor you, from the one person, the hourly worker that works events at Sparrow on Maine, to the person who is directionally leading Sparrow and Co. Help us honor you, Lord. Give us the eyes and the ears and the heart to hear and join you in what you're doing, and not worry about all the minute details, because we have people in place that are worrying about the details. So it's been an interesting time. That's just me as a leader, expressing, I guess, my challenge in a growing organization. Um, yeah.
No, that is so I guess what I'm hearing is there's not only things that you're going to have to fight and push through from the beginning, those first step moments, but it's like, hey, this is
Mhm.
always going to, there's always going to be something that you are working through, learning, growing, kind of like that, just this forging that happens, which is beautiful.
Mhm.
And honestly, part of why I think, and I think you might agree with this, but I think part of the reason why, I mean, we all long to have purpose, right? And we all long to live in our
Mhm.
purpose. And I think part of the reason it's so powerful to actually walk in the things that you're called to and not hold back or sit back or wait for the perfect time or, whatever it is you're doing. I think it's because sometimes these challenges and the rub and the opposition, that's actually what makes you rise and grow, and it forges
Mhm.
these things in you that are eternal versus,
Mhm.
hoping that you're going to be perfect before you actually say yes to what it is, and that's never going to happen. And
Yeah.
there's always going to be a challenge. I read this quote by Helen Keller the other day, and it just really struck with me. And it said, character cannot be developed in ease and quiet, only through experience um of that and suffering can the soul be strengthened, vision cleared, ambition inspired, and success achieved? And obviously, coming from someone like Helen Keller, that she's lived that.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
it's the character that's formed too in the process of working out. Like we're not perfect people. We're broken, flawed people who are
Right.
relying on the Lord as we go, and there's something being forged in us through the process of stepping out and saying yes. And so I
That's
love that, but
right.
I think that's a great thing to even just understand is that once it happens and you're there with this amazing venue and all of these awesome things, it doesn't mean now you're like sitting back and it's so easy. There's still challenges and things
No,
to walk through.
there's a myriad of challenges
Yeah.
for sure.
Um, so what would you say to the listener that has something in their heart that they know, okay, this is from the Lord. I know I've heard this. I know this is what he's wanting me to step into. There's something on my life that I know he's asking me to do. What would you
Mhm.
say to that person that maybe is kind of sitting on it? Maybe like we've talked about before, where it's waiting for the perfect day or for more time or to be perfect or put together. What would you say to them?
You know, back in 2011, when I started the nonprofit Sparrow Collective, um, I had just I had come out of steps recovery at our church, and it's interesting because Sparrow was birthed out of steps recovery, out of understanding my story better and
Okay.
what God had intended for me.
And that's what
Now,
is steps
okay,
recovery?
so steps recovery is a it's a program at church. You've probably heard of Celebrate Recovery,
Yes.
where you are working through difficult patterns in your life and family of origin stuff. And so it's interesting because I was working through my story, but what was revealed in that was my patterns of behavior. And so fear is a pattern that I continually come back to. And so as I was starting Sparrow, my husband, so sweet. I was like, I'm going to start this conference. It's going to be great. We're going to the AAC. It's going to be awesome, you know.
Yeah.
And he was like, man, what would it look like for you to be faithful in the small? And so I guess that would
Wow.
be my encouragement. Don't be afraid of the small, and don't think that things are not being forged in the small. That oftentimes it is that simple step of faith. It is one step at a time, guided by the Holy Spirit. Um, you receive, your almost your orders from the Lord. Here, walk this way, have this conversation, and it becomes this beautiful uh, kind of layered effect of what God's doing, forming, and as He's building, it builds upon each other. And so you have to start somewhere, and it's usually the small, and it usually starts in your heart, in your soul, communing with the Father, communing with Him first, and then okay, what's the next step? And so we sometimes as a visionary, and I don't know, a lot of people who are listening, you probably wouldn't call yourself a visionary, but if God's put something in your heart, that you probably are a visionary. And maybe you need people around you to accomplish the vision, but God has given that to you. And so it's sometimes we think, man, we've got to step out and we've got to have the perfect package right up front, because that's the vision. And it's interesting because that has not been my experience. My experience has been be faithful in the small, one foot in front of the other. God will provide over and over and over again. And like to your point, what you were saying, He is forming us into the image of His Son. That is the goal, that we would look more like Christ. And so let us look like Christ in the small, and let us look like Christ in the big, and let us follow Him and join Him in what He's doing in the world. But it's the small, that it's those intimate spaces that man, that he it's like a furnace of what He wants to do in and through you. And so I just say step out in the small. It could be one conversation, it could be one coffee, It could be a small group in your home. It could be a meal a month. It could be these small steps of obedience that honor the Lord, that might lead to something different or bigger. But I think our society is so after the big and after the perfect that we forget what's forged in the beauty of small spaces. So,
That's beautiful. What a great, I feel like it's such a great sum up because I do think a lot of times when the Lord gives vision, I know for myself, I see it big, big vision. And then what's followed, and when you're in those moments where you're in his presence and you're hearing his voice
mhm,
and you can see something like that, like when you saw the building or you got the idea for this 3-part organization, like it, I do the same thing. I'll run to my husband first and I'm like, I've got an idea. This is what the Lord said. And it's just this massive thing in my mind and in my heart. And I can say it with such boldness, and then a couple days later when it's like, all right, Lord, where are we at with this? What now? The step that's given, the strategy is typically so
mhm.
counter to what I think it's going to be
Yeah.
or what I maybe
Yeah.
want it to be. Um, and
Mhm.
it is typically the smallest step or the most strange strategy to actually moving
That's
forward
right.
in the thing that God is called. And so I just think that that's such a important thing to understand and see, and we see it so many times even in scripture. Um,
We do.
and it's just it's in a world where we've got social media and amazing lighting and awesome podcast studios and everything is just big and fabulous and wonderful, it is such a great reminder to know that even when the Lord is giving a big vision, there is going to be a first small step attached to the beginning. And so
Yeah.
being okay with that, and like you said, being faithful with what he's put in your hands right now. And so it's so powerful
Yeah.
to remember. And, we are opposite than the world. Like it's not going to go, it's just everything that he gives us is so against the grain to the way maybe the world would do it or the way the world would go after it, or this ambition to just crush it is different than when God puts something in our heart to, I think not
Mhm.
only the amazing thing about it is it's not only for what it's going to just mold in us. I mean, the growth and the things that the Lord has done in my heart, I always think, man, you called me to start a women's ministry because you needed to work that out in me. And if that's all it was for,
Mhm.
it was a lot
Mm.
because
Yes.
so much freedom, so much stuff has been worked out. But along the way, it's like, look at all of the people that have been affected as well, just because, he's going to multiply what he's doing in your life. So that's so
Yes.
powerful. I'm so thankful that you could join us. I think a little also exciting, maybe sneak peek side note. I don't know that we've said this from the beginning, but again, I found you because I was looking on this wedding venue website for a venue for Refresh 24. And I think I can officially announce, because we've officially done the thing, is that we will be hosting Refresh 24 at Sparrow on Maine in Louisville, Texas. And I am
So exciting.
beyond excited. It is just the way the Lord has aligned this unity between us. And I think there's a
Mhm.
lot more to it than just a space. And I'm excited to gather, and I'm
Mm.
excited to unify what God's put on your life with what God's put on my team's lives, and just see what the Lord does. So Refresh 24,
You
Louisville,
too.
Texas. Yeah,
We cannot wait.
it's going to be good.
We're so excited.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for just sharing your heart, bearing your soul, letting us a little bit behind the curtains of some of your true feelings and thoughts as you've stepped out into the dream that's in your heart. And I just like honor you, Rachel. I feel like, um, again, I know we've just started getting to know each other, but I really, so much inspiration for me personally, just
Mhm.
from hearing your story and seeing how you have followed the Lord and not sought after the dream, but you've sought after Him. And it's so apparent. And it's
Mhm.
just been a beautiful thing to get to witness and get to know you. So thanks for being on today.
Well, of course, and likewise, I'm super excited about all that's ahead for Refresh. I mean, I am so excited.
This was so good, Rachel. I'm just so honored to get to do this with you. Before we finish up, I just want if you could share where everybody could find you, look her up and stalk her like I did on that day in the car at soccer practice. You will be so blessed. Where can they find you?
You're so funny. Oh my goodness. Well, people can find me over on Instagram at Rachel R. Joy. And then you can find us online at sparrowcollective.org, sparrowonmaine.com, and then sparrowandco.com. So we'd love to see you. Come and visit us, please.
Love it. Thanks so much, Rachel.